All right, welcome everybody. You are listening to WRUU 107.5 FM, Savannah, Georgia. WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. And I am your host, Adam Messer. This is the Adam Messer Show, where we talk with authors, artists, and entertainers. And I have a very special guest today. You're going to really enjoy this interview. John Hartness has Falstaff Books. He is an author, he's an editor, a publisher, and just a really interesting guy. He has this. I guess there's a group of books that you have, John, but you have this YouTube show that you're doing right now called The 10 Things I Hate About You. And don't get it wrong, people. It's not that he hates you as a person, but as a publisher, these are all the things that that he experiences with his writers and then people that want to be writers for him. And these are just, some of the tricks of the trade and some of the skill sets that you need. And I have been loving it. So, John, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I appreciate it. It's good to take some time out to chat with folks, and thanks for watching the YouTube show. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great. And preface it, y'all. We are a community radio station, so you're not going to hear any adult language right now. But John, you're like me, John. I'll be honest with you. I've got a potty mouth, and I saw this thing the other day. It said that people, highly intelligent people, swear more, they sleep less, and something else. And I was like, that explains my bleep 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 insomnia. So when the thing.
There are a lot of words in the English language, and I tend to use all of them in those videos.
Yeah, I love it. Well, the thing that got me was, I think I was watching actually episode 2, and I can't remember. You said something, and I was like, this MFer gets it. And I was like, this guy, I was like, because I do journalism, and I think you were talking about like deadlines or something like that. And I was like, yeah, this guy really knows, you're doing, as a publisher and an author, you're doing what a lot of us want to do. You're financially independent with your publishing company, and you're doing, what a lot of us would like to do, like, make this our full-time career. So I thought it'd be kind of a neat match, since we talked to a lot of authors, I thought it'd be kind of a neat having you on the show so people can kind of hear what you have to say and
Sure.
help them out. So can you do I talked a little bit about you, but can you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I am 10 years into my career as a professional fiction writer. I got into writing fiction through what I call pseudo-journalism. I was working for internet gaming websites writing poker tournament coverage. And I got in an argument with my editor over a deadline. She thought I had one and I didn't. So I found myself unemployed from that side gig. And I decided to write the great American novel.
Oh, wow.
I am indeed an American, and I did write a novel, so I got 2/3 of it right. Its greatness is very much up for debate.
Okay.
But I started self-publishing in 2009.
Oh, great.
And
so you were in the early days of like Amazon and all that.
yes, I was in probably the second wave when people had just started figuring out how to make money self-publishing and creating quality product.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people I was about 6 months too late to really make money in the beginning, so I've had to play catch up ever since.
Well, you came across how I heard about you was Alidria Hurt, and she was telling me that you had helped mentor her, and then when I was talking with Rachel Brune about the horror anthology that she just put out with her Chrome Girls Press, she was talking about you, and I was like, it was weird because I kept hearing your name and whatever, and I was like, you know what, I want to introduce myself. So I had sent you a message. It's actually before Rachel had told me about you or whatever, talked about you, and I was like, I just keep hearing about you, and I keep hearing all these good things about you, and that you're a lot of fun to work with, and and like I said, you're doing the stuff that we want to do. The rest of us are trying to break into it, and I want to kind of pick your brain about this 10 things I hate about you, like the hard, fast, quick and dirty rules of, being a writer and publishing and working with a publishing house, because you're an independent publishing house.
That's correct.
And you have your submission guidelines are very strict. They're very easy, but they're very strict, and you're not accepting anything until 2021, right?
That's the current plan. Yes.
Yeah.
We closed halfway through 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about opening up in the beginning of 2020, and then we looked at everything that we have under contract and decided, no, we'll wait. We have over 100 titles under contract right now, and we don't have any room in our production schedule to pick up new writers.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, 100 titles, that's a large catalog.
It is. We end up doing somewhere between 40 and 50 titles a year, which is ridiculous for a company as small as we are.
I'm friends with Bobby Nash too, and he said something about he's going to be working with you in the future.
Bobby's doing a series of novellas for us. We published a short story collection of his called 85 North.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's writing a collection of novellas in my Bubba the Monster Hunter universe.
Oh, that's great. He's going to be down here next month for our my Books and Brews thing that I do. And
awesome.
So I'd love to see him again. He was a big supporter of the Savannah Quill when I first started it in 2016.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I'm telling you, it was like serendipitous it was just designed. It's like, hey, this guy for some reason, your name just kept popping up. I mean, it was just crazy. And I don't know you, you don't know me, but your name just kept popping up. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to introduce myself. I just want to meet you. And you seem like an interesting fellow. So.
Well, I've done a lot of conventions around the Southeast
mm-hmm.
in the past 10 years. Now it's anywhere from 20 to 40 conventions a year.
Oh, wow.
So I meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if you know a Southern writer, we're probably only 1 degree away from each other.
The Kevin Bacon factor thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're the Kevin Bacon of the 1 degree. It's like you're 3 degrees removed from John Hartness. So.
Yeah,
we need to make that a thing. Yeah, we need to make that a thing. It's like the John Hartness factor. So
I'm really only 1 degree from Kevin Bacon too, though.
There you go.
Because we shared an acting instructor in college. One of his first acting teachers moved to South Carolina and was one of my acting teachers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange how the world works? How the world goes around. So
an old boss of mine used to say, there's only about 150 people in any given industry. Try not to be a jerk to any of them. You don't know who you're going to need a job from.
That's crazy you say that, because I covered a lot of the conventions in Savannah, and I used to always say it's always the same 100 people that you see over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
You go to these conventions, you get to know, you see the same 100 people, and that you've got your con buddies, and so yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
And everybody talks.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I haven't put in a video yet. The 10 Things I Hate About Your Writing video series came from a presentation I did at a conference back in February. And it's designed for writers who aren't getting their work accepted by publishers or agents,
mm-hmm.
or writers who have gotten some work out there but aren't selling as much as they want to.
Yeah.
And the idea is just to help people fine-tune their writing and their presentation, because there's a lot of little things out there that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah, the little nuances, the things that separate amateurs from professionals. That's
One
what
of
I
my
noticed with your
first
videos.
one of my first videos in the series was on copulas. And that's instances of the verb to be
Mm-hmm.
and how they can distance a reader from the immediacy of the action.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I write genre fiction. I write science fiction, fantasy, horror comedy. I write fast-paced, action-centric work. And that's primarily what we publish at Falstaff Books.
Mm-hmm.
So we want the reader to be as absorbed in the world and in the action as possible.
Yeah.
So if you say, I was walking across the grass, well, that's a perfectly reasonable sentence. But I walked across the grass is more active.
Mm-hmm.
And those little things, just telling people to go through and cut out 8 out of every 10 instance of was, were, are, am, all of that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I write in active tense, and that actually is a kind of an annoyance for me too. Is I can't get into had happened, was. When I start, if I read the first page of a book and I see nothing but passive tense voice,
Oh, yeah.
I'm done. I don't care how good the story is. I can't, because I know it's going to annoy me so much as I read it that I don't want to invest that time in it.
And that's a video that'll be coming later in the series where I talk about active and passive voice.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you can add the phrase "by zombies"
Mm-hmm.
to the end of a sentence,
Yeah, I've seen that.
then it's passive voice, and you should probably rewrite it.
Yeah, you don't want the subject being, you don't want them to be the one receiving the action. You want them to be doing the action. So
Right.
I think that's a simple way, I think, to distinguish between active and passive. Like if your character is receiving something, like, had happened, John had happened to, receive this from Adam because of blah, 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 versus Adam gave John a gift. Simple,
Exactly.
sweet, short, to this point. So
And
let's talk. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going
to say that a lot of times young writers and newly published writers will defend their work by saying, well, Tolkien did this,
mm-hmm.
or, well, Robert Jordan did this, or C.S. Lewis did this. To which I respond with, none of those people are trying to publish their first book in 2019.
That's true. That is so true. And when they used passive voice, it made sense. The way that they used it. Well, Tolkien, I don't know. I didn't read so much C.S. Lewis or the other one. But Tolkien, I feel like it made sense because of the style of the dialogue. So it made sense. Yes. Because that was more medieval style dialogue. So, people talked like that.
And everyone is writing as a product of the time
mm-hmm.
that they live in.
Yeah.
I'm a child of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 1973, so I really came of age with MTV.
Yep.
With jump cuts,
mm-hmm.
with shaky cam, with quick bursts of storytelling, with
mm-hmm.
soundbite news. That's how I learned to tell story. And of course, I really can stop and enjoy somebody like Pat Conroy, who has this lush, poetic language and takes his time to let a story unfold.
Mm-hmm.
But Pat Conroy wasn't a product of today.
Well, talking about that, just kind of digging into that same vein, you were talking about the length of a novel mm-hmm. and defending not so much defending, but just really putting it on the map for people, saying, hey, I really appreciate that you wrote 300 million words for your novel, but you are not so-and-so, and people are not going to read that. They're going to read maybe 80,000 to 100,000 words. I'm just kind of paraphrasing here what you were talking about in that thing. And it made so much sense because, you said that, like, you were basically saying the strategy for introducing new authors and your stable of authors or whatever is to say, hey, here's a good, quick little read from one of our new authors, and we're going to be working with them over the next several years. So this is what you can expect from them. And as you build your readership up and they're willing to invest that time, because it's, to me, it's a time investment. They're willing to invest that time into reading the longer novels or the longer series of novels, then you can do that. But when you're brand new, you need to connect with that reader, connect with your audience, and build that relationship with them. And if you've got, like you said, I think you said you're not G.R.R. Martin, you're not, so-and-so. I mean, and one of the great examples I think I was thinking of when you said that was J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter. The first book is the shortest book that she has.
Yes.
And that to me is a great example of one of the, you don't want to talk about modern literary heroes. Harry Potter's story is like one of the best stories of the last 100 years. And her first book is the shortest one.
And that almost always is going to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
You very seldom, you don't want to go backwards. Your readers begin to expect a story of a certain length and a certain depth.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to then shortcut them on the next book. You want to give them more.
Yeah.
So typically your first book is going to be your shortest book, and you can grow as a writer as the series grows.
Let me do a station ID real quick, John.
Sure.
Everybody tuning in today, thank you for listening. You are listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul, and I'm your host, Adam Messer, and my special guest today is John Hartness. He is the publisher of Falstaff Books, and we're talking about the nitty-gritty of being a writer and getting your work published and that kind of thing. So, John, tell me more about, so what was the genesis for, I know that you were talking about it came from like a talk that you did in February, but what was, because this is a commitment, you have all these things that you're juggling, and your videos are, 15 to 20 minutes long, I think that I've seen so far. This is a time commitment for you to do it. And also, you don't have to do this. What made you decide that you wanted to do it and then to continue, putting those out there?
Well, there's two aspects. Well, probably more than that, but there are multiple aspects to wanting to do a video series. One is that a lot of people helped me in my career when I was starting out. And I feel like this is a way for me to share information that I've learned over the past 10 years to a relatively broad base without having to travel all over the country and speak to 10 or 20 people at a time. I can put the videos out there and people can find them. And they're not the most polished videos. It's me sitting in front of my computer with a webcam and bookshelves behind me swearing about publishing for
and you said
minutes.
that you're getting ready to move everything upstairs. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yes, it's going to be terrible. There's so much junk and so many books. But the way that we're doing it is when I load out for a convention right now, I just don't load back into my office. I load back into the new space. Yeah. Because I had to move everything anyway to put it in the truck for the show. Yeah, that and doing conventions, y'all, if you're on the other side of it and you don't work a convention or you're not an event coordinator, there's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that goes on. And the moving of things is a chore. I'll be honest with you. That's tomorrow's video, actually, is kind of a peek behind the curtain at what it takes to have a table at a convention. I always pack light.
I try to pack light, and so for example, yesterday we did the Savannah Authors Expo, and this is the third year I've been doing a literary book event, and we had it was a great space. It's a place called Savannah Coffee Roasters here in Savannah, and they have this room above it called the Morrison Room, and it's a meeting room, but it's like set up like couches and that kind of thing, and we had probably a dozen or so authors. And I told them, they were asking, can they bring banners and that kind of thing. I was like, no, we don't have. It's not that kind of space. It's not that kind of atmosphere. But the folks that have like the 6 foot tall banners, some of them have the huge spaces and all that. That's cool and all. And you have to have especially if you go to a comic book convention or something like that, you have to have something that stands out. But I just told everybody, you've got about a 2x space on a 6 foot table. We had 4 6 foot tables, and it was very cozy. And I always let them know, in these kind of smaller events, I'm like, it is not a book selling event. You will sell books, but you're there really to connect with other people and meet other people. And, I tell people, just pack light, bring maybe 10 copies or so of your book. If you sell them all, that's great. If you don't, whatever. And so that's the kind of event. And then I've been at other events like comic book conventions and being part of that. And, it just depends on the audience and the crowd that you get. But so with you do 20 to 40 conventions a year. That's a lot of traveling. That's a lot of book moving, packing up and down. So,
Oh yeah.
What do what's, well, we'll wait for the video. But do you have anything you want to share before the video?
Well,
a little sneak peek.
One of the things that I talk to people about is as your series grows,
mm-hmm.
you always take twice as many copies of book one as you do of subsequent books in the series.
That makes sense because people like number ones.
Well, people who have never heard of you are going to vastly outnumber the people that have heard of you,
mm-hmm.
and people that have never heard of you are going to start the series. So if you've got a 4-book series and you take 5 copies of each book,
mm-hmm.
well, when you sell out of book 1 halfway through the day, you're literally not going to sell anything else all day.
Right. Nobody's going to start the series in book 2 or 3. Yeah,
exactly.
That makes sense.
So you always take twice as many book 1s as you do anything else.
There you have it, everybody. There's a just practical, useful skill right there. That's a great one.
I approach writing and doing conventions and all of this. This is my job.
Mm-hmm.
When I get up and I come downstairs to write, this is me going to the office, just like everybody else. Well,
mm-hmm.
except it's 3:30 in the afternoon and I'm still in my pajamas and my bedroom slippers.
Right.
But I get up and I go to work in the morning, just like everybody else. So I don't sit around waiting for the muse to strike.
Yeah.
I do have a muse. My muse is called Wells Fargo, and they own my house.
Yeah.
And if I would like to ever own my house, I need to work.
Yeah. Well, how did you transition? Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just like people talk about writer's block.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ask them how often they've heard of electrician's block or mechanic's block.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a job.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm actually in an electrical program doing an apprenticeship. I've got 2.5 years left to be a journeyman electrician.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But that's so true. Well, you just have to do the work. You have to get in like that monk mode and just knock the work out.
Yeah, you really do. For me, I transitioned into being a full-time writer all wrong.
Mm.
I tell everybody, for God's sake, don't do it the way I did it.
Tell me about that, because that's, that is the thing. Like I think everybody I've ever talked to, if you ever hear anybody that says, I don't want to be rich and famous with it, maybe they don't want the fame, but I don't know anybody that just says, oh, well, I don't care if I ever, make any money off of it. Then, if you don't want this to be your self-sustaining career, then you're just, nothing wrong with it, but more of a hobbyist.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends who I don't want them to quit their day job.
Right.
I have a friend who's a physician.
Oh yeah.
I don't want him to quit his day job. He saves lives.
Yeah. Yeah. The
with
world
his
needs people
day
like
job.
that. Yeah.
Right. But I sold theatrical lighting equipment. I'm easily replaceable in that industry, which is good because I left that industry 7 years ago. So in 2011, I hit a really hot sales streak, and I was making money hand over fist.
Wow.
My books were selling. I didn't know why, but I assumed that would happen forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was, in a word, wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I stopped selling books like water, I had already quit my day job of 18 years. And I spent all of 2012 being a full-time writer. I went to conventions, I did blog tours, I did all kinds of awesome writerly things, except I forgot to write.
Oh.
I spent a lot of time living the writer life and happily telling people I was a full-time writer and watching.
You got a little
my
starstruck.
401k. Oh yeah, I was going to be the deal.
Yeah.
I also watched my 401k drip into nothingness, and after a year, I went back and got another day job.
Yeah.
So then I bounced around 2013 to 2015. I bounced around various day jobs with varying levels of success. And mid-2015, the last company I worked for decided that they no longer needed my services. And I had seen the writing on the wall. It wasn't a great fit. They're good people, no hard feelings about it. But I was not the right person for them. They were not the right company for me. I had seen that coming.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's just, it's very obvious, and it's no hard feelings, like you said, but, it's not a right fit. It's not a right fit. You can't force it.
Right. Fortunately for me, that coincided with the Quincy Harker Demon Hunter series launching and taking off much stronger than I had ever anticipated. So I was able to leave that job and support my family through my writing.
Nice.
And I'm not going to say it's been easy because I'd be lying, but I have managed for the last 4 years to support myself and my wife and our overfed cat off of my words.
Can I dive in here too with that?
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that, because there are people out there who say that they're full-time writers, but they're being subsidized by a family member. They have a spouse or a significant other or a parent that basically pay their bills,
Yeah.
And, so you're supporting your family with your craft. And I consider that to be very admirable. You're doing what you want to do. And I don't knock the other folks that, they this is their job, but they're not making any money at it. And to me, the difference between, being an amateur and a professional is you're making sales. You're selling your wares, someone is buying it. And, like I'll give an example. I'm a freelance writer for the Savannah Morning News. I make money, they pay well. It's actually above the industry standard for, by the word. But it's not enough to be self-supporting. It's, supplemental income. I tell people I'm a freelance writer. I don't work for them full time. I've been writing for them since 2014. So I just celebrated my 5th anniversary. I make money professionally as a writer, but I have to distinguish with people saying, I am not a full-time professional writer.
It's weird because I come from a theatrical background, and all of the arts kind of have this same thing where you can be a professional and not make your sole living at your art.
Yeah.
I never made a living from theater, but I never was considered not a professional.
Right.
So I try not to get too hung up on whether or not anyone else does or doesn't make a living or support their family off their writing, because
Well, what I'm getting at with that is not so much the, the difference between actually doing it and then claiming it, is that like you were talking about the status the first year, like, oh, I made it, I'm doing this.
yeah.
And that's one of the pitfalls, because people, I don't know, people see famous writers that, they've had Hollywood deals and this, that, and the other. And, and that's the dream that they have, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be famous. And they don't see the nuts and bolts. They don't
Everybody wants to be Richard Castle.
Right.
Everybody wants to be the writer who publishes one book a year and gets $1 million or more every year off of those books. And
it's almost like they're looking for that status symbol or that title. And I'm like, the title doesn't matter so much as your work, your body of work, your art.
We mentioned George R.R. Martin earlier. Well, he broke big with Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. That TV show set him for life.
Mm-hmm.
Those books were massive hits before there was a TV show.
All the merchandise. It goes on and on.
But long before there was ever a Game of Thrones TV show, George was making a living as a successful writer.
Right.
He put in the work for 20 years before he wrote the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire.
Right, right.
So he was an overnight success in his 50s or 60s when the TV show started, but he'd had a 30-year career before the cameras ever started rolling.
I love that because, so many people are like, yeah, I was an overnight success after 10 years of hard work.
And that's what it's like.
Yeah.
A lot of times I talk to a lot of young writers, and when I talk to a writer who's 25 or even 30, and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, nothing's happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, well, John Scalzi was 37 years old when he published his first novel.
Mm-hmm.
John's one of the most successful science fiction novelists in the world right now.
Right.
This was career 2 for him, too.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us have done other stuff first.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know that have made the New York Times list, they didn't do it with their first book. Some of them didn't do it with their 10th book. I'm 22 novels in and have never even come close to a bestseller list.
Yeah.
But I get up every morning and I go do the work. And that's kind of what the video series is designed for. It's to demystify some of this writer life. It's to show you that sometimes it's just a fat guy in his office talking, swearing into a webcam.
I love it because you're so raw with it. Yes. I love it because you're so raw with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no edits.
Well, you know what it reminds me of, John, is like in our world, in our, working world, you have different professions. And even within that profession, there are different subclasses of that profession. And I think of like what you're doing as the working class version of being a writer. You've got a nice little following. You've got your fan base, but you also connect with people, and you don't seem like the kind of cheesy person that's like, oh, I'm all about my fans, and you're looking for that status. You just seem like a real world kind of person. This is, hey, I'm doing this. These are the things that you need to do if this is what you want to do as your career. And the goal is, I mean, honestly, I think for all of us, I think that, the goal is, it's like, hey, HBO comes to me tomorrow and says, hey, man, we want to option Blood Thrasher, which is my first novella. Yeah, okay, let's do it. It's like you say
Yeah.
yes to opportunities, but I love your series, and like, some of these videos I've been watching, and just some of the posts too, that you make, and I'm like, this guy gets it. And a lot of people, like you said, demystifying that, because there is this. It's almost like when people travel to the U.S. and they move here, and they think that everything. And my wife is from Mexico City, so I'm talking about from perspective of, like, when she and I first met, and she's a U.S. citizen now. But a lot of people, when they come here, they think it's going to be glamorous and it's going to be this and it's going to be that, and then they get here and they're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
nothing like that. And I think that's what the writing world is like. It's like, okay, um, there's a lot more to it than just the story. If you're very serious about it, you have to continue to learn your craft. You have to continue to work on your skill sets. And it's
I said something very similar to that on a panel at DragonCon this year.
yeah,
I was in front of a room of a couple of hundred people, all of them on the writer's track, so I'm assuming they were all either fledgling writers or maybe had one or two publishing credits, but they were relatively new to the business. And I told them all, I said, you have to understand that what you see here is skewed. This isn't the reality of being a writer. You don't see that 2/3 of the people you see on panels at conventions are going to be dragging their behinds into work on Monday morning with all bleary-eyed from doing a con all weekend.
Yep.
Because they still have day jobs.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody who gets one leading role in a movie, their whole life has changed.
Well, I had a friend. Go ahead.
Someone who gets one book published by a major publisher, their life has changed, but their financial life really isn't.
You actually, you must have been reading my mind, because that's what I was just about to tell you. I have a friend that had a book published by a major publishing house. They gave her $0 for marketing and advertising. $0. Now, she's done a fantastic job of plugging her book and promoting it. But what I have found with these publishers is that they want to know, they don't buy your book all the time because it's your story. They buy your book because they base it off of how well you can push and sell books and what kind of following you have. And any story, they can edit it. The bigger places, they can get it edited, they can be polished, and they can do all of the trimmings that they need to make it a proper book. That's not the problem. It's, do you have a story? Are you likable? Can you sell books? And that's what I see.
Absolutely.
That's what I see over and over again. It's almost like a popularity contest. And I've heard of people being turned down because they didn't have a big enough social media presence.
If they have an amazing book, that won't happen. If the book is breathtaking, the book will sell.
Yeah.
But if the book is okay, and there's another book under consideration that's just as okay, and the person with the okay book has 1 million Twitter followers, I'm publishing the person with 1 million Twitter followers.
And it's a business decision. It makes sense.
It really is.
And it's nothing personal, but it's just, people don't understand that that's one of the aspects that, they're looking at too. They're looking for fresh new faces. It's very much like the entertainment industry.
I've never hired a writer or offered a contract on a book because someone has a huge social media footprint or fantastic visibility.
Oh, I didn't mean you personally. I was just talking about some of the bigger.
Oh, well, it certainly happens. Otherwise, Snooki would have never been given a book deal. But I mean, there's a reason that Michelle Obama's book was the number one book on the New York Times list for a couple of weeks. And
Right.
it's not because it's a wonderful book. It may very well be a wonderful book.
But
But
people want to know
because
what
so
she's
many
doing, and
people,
yeah.
the fact that so many people love Michelle Obama,
Right, right, right.
millions of people reach out for her story. So I never tell writers, go out and build your social media before you write your book. But I am doing a YouTube series of videos to help increase my own exposure and my company's exposure. So
Right, right.
obviously I think there is some benefit to going out and promoting yourself.
Well, you being on the
Otherwise,
show
I
today
wouldn't be
with
on.
me is, really a direct correlation of that. You know, I
Absolutely.
kept hearing about you, and then I watched one of your videos, and then that's when I reached out to you. I was like, hey, I'm so and so. I just would like to introduce myself to you. And
Yeah.
and then actually I don't think I even asked you if you would be on the show for a couple of weeks. I think it was like maybe
Probably
a couple
not.
of weeks, and then I was like, you know what, I would like to have you on the show just so I could talk with you, and because the that's the whole thing I do with the show is try to share the process with people so that they can see, okay, well, I can do this, but I have to do the work. There's no shortcuts to the work. And I think
There
that's one of the things that you
really
talk
are.
about a lot is just doing the work, getting in there and, going the 10 rounds and, getting taking the blows and, throwing them back at them. And
Yeah, you're not going to be brilliant when you start.
right,
Nobody's brilliant
right,
when they start. AJ Hartley is a good friend of mine. He's a New York Times bestseller, one of my favorite writers. He talks all the time about the fact that it was his 12th book that got published.
wow.
Yeah. And some of those books that he wrote before he got published, no one will ever see until he's dead, if then.
I had to share a story with you kind of related to that. I started doing these conventions. Like when I was a kid, I was a big comic book guy. I loved comic books. And as an adult, though, I wanted to get into photography and that kind of thing. And so I started doing photography for the paper for this thing called Spotted. And it was event photography, and it was all volunteer or whatever. I didn't get paid for it. But we had a little party, and I met the editor for the Deuce Savannah. Her name was Heather Henley. And I said, I'd like to write, for the Deuce Savannah. This is the kind of thing I like to do. I go to these conventions anyway, and and I was on the newspaper staff as in high school, and I did 2 years of journalism in high school, and I love academic writing and professional writing, business writing, that kind of thing. I like to, whatever. And she was very polite, but she just said, yeah, just send me just a sample of your work or whatever. It was just real casual. And then
Right.
I didn't send her anything. Um, yeah, it was just like one of those things. I kind of felt like, oh, okay, whatever. And so 6 months later, there was this gaming store called Savannah Lion Games opening up, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I approached the guy and I said, you know what? I can guarantee I can take photos and get that published. I said, but I would like to do an article with you, and I would like to submit it to the editor. I can't guarantee it'll get published, whatever. But will you do it? And he said, yeah. And so I wrote this article up. I sent it over to the editor. I said, you asked me for a sample. I just went ahead and did an article with this guy, did an interview, and this is the kind of work that I would like to do. Covering these events and things like that I do. And she was like, I love it. Published it. And what is really strange though is the main newspaper it's a division of Savannah Morning News. It's actually the Savannah Morning News. It's just our weekly entertainment thing that they call Do Savannah. The main editor of the paper asked me if I would cover an interview with Dragon Con. We had two local cosplayers that were going to be Dragon Con guests as judges for a cosplay that year. So I interviewed them. I submitted the article for that, and it actually got published before the one about the gaming store. So that was like in August of 2014, and so since then, I wanted to get into writing fiction. I was like, this would be interesting, and I was really interested in publishing my own book, and I've made different friends in the area and in whatever. I've talked to a lot of different people, and I would always ask them, questions like, oh, what worked with you and what didn't work or whatever. And in like 2015, I spent 12 months writing a novel. And I was not very disciplined about it. I was still just kind of like, oh, what am I doing? I would only write when I was inspired to write, and which is
Yep.
total nonsense. I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, what was I doing? And I spent 12 months on this novel, and I thought, oh, this is great. And so I sent it to a friend of mine, and I asked my friend, I said, would you read it? Because he was published with a small publishing house, and month goes by, nothing. 2 months goes by, nothing. Third month, I was like, hey, would you, can you give me some feedback on it? And he was really hesitant to say anything. And I said, well, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. And I said, I just would like to know what you thought. And he said, I don't know how to tell you this, but it was terrible. And I was like, oh gosh. So it was that 2016. So 2017, I didn't do anything at all. I was just kind of like, oh, my writing sucks, and whatever. I continued to write newspaper articles or whatever. And, so I know my strengths are in academic and business writing and journalism, but my fiction writing skills sucked. And, so I wanted to continue to try to write something, and I started doing this little, series. It was kind of like a historical fiction about the lore of vampires in Savannah. Like, what if,
Okay.
like newspaper clippings and that kind of thing. But I was kind of bored with it. I was like, I don't know, because there's not really a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in Savannah about ghosts and all that and whatever. So last year, my son and I, Josh Vasquez, he wrote the Savannah Zombie novel series. He was on the show and we were talking. And after the show, my son said, Dad, why don't you write something about a heavy metal vampire band that came to Savannah? And I was like, ding, 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 ding. That's a great idea. So I wrote this little 10,000 word novella, and I self-published it, and I put it out there. I was like, boom, I want to do this. And I got a lot of great responses from people. You were talking about fast-paced action. That is
Mm-hmm.
how I wrote this book. I designed it. It's only 42 pages or something like that. I designed it so people could read it on a break, or if they were quick readers, they could read it in 20 to 30 minutes if they wanted to, or whatever. Or if they're slow readers, they could read it, whatever. But I wanted it to be fast-paced, and I wanted it, like the reader to feel like they were in the story. And so that was the first time I published anything. And then I was going to put out the next one, and talking about writer's block, I wrote like 10,000 words, but I didn't feel like it was the right story. And so I rebooted the second one 3 times, John. And I'm actually, it's so crazy because I've been working on my writing skills this year. I've been working on learning more about my craft and just doing those things. And I outlined it, and that is my NaNoWriMo project. And I've got 18,000 words as of yesterday. So an evolution
Nice.
of being an author and being a writer, like I felt like I was really strong in the, writing area for certain things. But then my fiction writing, I was like, it was kind of a letdown. But then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I'm not a horrible writer. I'm just a new writer. And I need to work. And that's why this last year I have been really diving in and digging into skill sets and learning my craft, because before I thought that I could just translate those other skills to fiction writing,
Yeah,
and
that's
it
not how.
wasn't so easy.
No, that's not how it works. You
Yeah.
know, one thing that I haven't talked about much on the videos is that Falstaff Books is creating a writers conference for genre fiction writers
Oh,
in
nice.
2020.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's a 2-day conference called Saga, and it's dedicated to teaching people how to write genre fiction professionally. So mystery, science fiction, fantasy, horror, romance, thrillers. If you want to write that kind of stuff, then Saga is a really good opportunity. We've got people coming in from all over the country to teach.
Nice.
And it's something that we want to make a little money at it, but we also think that it will be a strong brand building for the publishing house, and it will be really helpful to newer writers.
I'll tell you something that, like, talking about that, Rachel Brune, I know I've talked about her earlier.
Mm-hmm.
She has been part of a couple different anthologies, and this year she published her first anthology with the Chrome Girls Press. It's her small publishing house. And she asked me if I would be interested. She had read Blood Thrasher last year, and she interviewed me for her Infamous Scribbler website. Bobby Nash actually introduced me to her. So it's really cool. And so she asked me if I would be part of this horror anthology, The Stories We Tell After Midnight. And it was really neat doing that and working with her in the process. And my story actually wraps up the anthology. And she told me, she told me that the final line in my short story, the novella or whatever, that she wanted to close out the book with that. And that was one of the reasons why she picked my story to wrap it up. But for the experience, like she actually had my name on the cover, and I was like, wow, I'd never, outside of my own fiction publishing, I'm published with a newspaper and I'm published with a couple other, professional mediums or whatever. But outside of fiction, being part of this small publishing house and working with her one-on-one with the editing and things like that, it was a really neat experience. And the people that have read the stuff that I have, they said, I really feel like you've made a big improvement. And I can attribute that directly to studying the craft. And I think, like yesterday when we were doing the Savannah Authors Expo, I hosted panels. We had different special guests and people talking about writing and publishing and that kind of thing. And it was a wonderful turnout. And that's one of the things that I also encourage new writers is, learn your craft. If you go to a job, you don't start day one, unless you've done it before, you don't start day one knowing the parameters of the job. You have to learn those skills. And so that's really cool. You're doing, when are you doing Saga?
It is March 6th through 8th, and it is at the University Hilton in Charlotte. And people can go to www.sagaconference.com for more information.
There's a really popular comic book called Saga, too.
Yes, there is, and I didn't think about that when I named the con.
Well, the neat thing about it though is like Saga. That's a generic, term. You don't. Nobody can own that term per se. But I like the fact that because Saga, it means like a story, basically. And I like the fact that you're calling that Saga because it makes sense. It's like, okay, well, you're learning how to write a story. This is what you need to do.
That was something that we really wanted to tie that story component in with the name.
And that's sagaconference.com, you said? Let me pull that up real quick. I've got a browser here. Tell me what now, because I know why I wanted to do the Savannah Quill and the Savannah Authors thing. I wanted to build something where I could help other local authors in the area, connect, meet readers, promote literacy. The catchphrase actually that I'll always push is connecting writers and readers to promote literacy. So that's my mission with the Savannah Quill and the Savannah Authors Expo. I even do the Books and Brews where we raise funds for the Ronald McDonald House. So that's like my mission is like promoting literacy, trying to do good for the community. What prompted you to do the Saga conference?
It wasn't anything nearly that altruistic, I'll tell you that. I went to a really poorly run authors event, and I looked at what the person operating the event was charging for the tables, and I ran down what the expenses probably were to produce the event, and I thought, this person is making a bucket of money
and doing
it wrong.
Yeah.
because I felt I paid almost $200 for a table at this event, and I felt spectacularly taken advantage of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, see, talking about cons earlier, the cons of cons, that is a big thing people don't understand. Is like, your table fees. There are some convention event hosts that are not exactly ethical, and and they don't care about you or your product. All they care about is selling the space. And I don't like that. I don't support or promote people that do that, and I'll disengage from them. So yeah, there's a lot of that out there.
There is, and that's what I felt was happening with this event. So I thought, I can do this better.
Mm-hmm.
And I am friends with a lot of really great writers, and one of my goals in creating Saga is I want to be not qualified enough to teach at my own conference.
That'd be neat.
I want everyone on faculty to be better than me.
Well, like the 20 books to 50K in Vegas is going on right now.
Yes.
And I love that group. I've been in that group for like over a year, and I had actually talked to Craig Martell last year on the show. And yeah, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, right?
No, because then what can I learn?
Right.
Also, I feel like I look better when I surround myself with people that are better than me.
Right.
Because if I'm bringing in Richard Kadri, who created Sandman Slim, for this conference.
Oh, awesome.
Well, Richard's an amazing guy, an incredible writer. Mary Mancusi writes middle grade fantasy for Disney. Amazing person, amazing writer. I'm bringing them in not just because they're my friends and I really enjoy their work and I find them highly intelligent and they present well. They also have not done a convention in North Carolina in the 10 years I've been on the con circuit.
Oh, wow.
So there are a lot of fantastic guests out there for conventions, but they've been to Charlotte recently.
Okay. Let me.
I'm
so sorry, John. I've got to do the station break because it's 4:00.
Okay.
Let me hold that thought. Everybody tuning in. You listen to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and my special guest today is John Hartness. Stay tuned because this last hour, we've been talking a lot about publishing, and we just got into start talking about his new convention called Saga, and it's going to be for writers and learning your craft. And I need you to check us out in this next hour. We're going to be on from 4 to 5, but I've got to play the station stuff, so we'll be right back.
You are listening to WRUU LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. This is Sounds of Tarab from the album Zanzibar, New York.
Mahaba wataka nini kongumo mimasikini nikumo niragani